Artemis looked up at the Black Swan building. She had not been back for some time. An unexpected feeling of nostalgia swept through her. Upon reaching the entrance, an old colleague she had previously worked with politely opened the door for her.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
She nodded and proceeded to the meeting hall to deliver her report. Crossing the long corridor, her well-trained senses became keenly aware of a subtle anomaly. Artemis scanned her surroundings and found the decor remained unchanged. Finally, her gaze fixated on the Research and Development Department. They appeared to be abnormally busy with people rushing in and out.
What happened?
You don't know yet? Ares suddenly left, and several ongoing projects have therefore been placed on hold.
The snake wrapped around her wrist sensed its master's mood and raised its head, silently flicking its tongue. Artemis gently stroked its head, putting the snake at ease.
Will this affect our project?
Ares' departure was not insignificant, but she was more concerned with practical matters.
Yeah, but we'll be okay. The R&D department is working to reschedule it.
And what about Ares? Will he be branded a traitor?
Not yet. There are differing opinions concerning him, but they will definitely be keeping Ares under surveillance, that's for sure.
I see.
This came as no surprise to Artemis, whether it was because of the technology Ares possessed or his personal value. Black Swan had to keep a close watch over his every move. And yet, if he was merely to be placed under surveillance, Ares must have reached a secret agreement with the organization.
I really don't get why they let a dangerous guy like Ares go free. If he turns out to be our target, we're gonna have a big problem on our hands.
Agreed. He'll make a tough adversary.
Artemis opened the door to the meeting hall, leaving him with one last warning before disappearing inside.
Be ready for anything.
The debriefing took quite a while. By the time Artemis left the meeting hall, the R&D department had fallen silent. She stared at the closed door, pondering the news of Ares' departure. Why on earth did he leave? The organization had provided him with the best research facilities, equipment, and ample experimental subjects, and his project proposals were always given immediate approval. They even turned a blind eye to his special relationship with the Queen. With all his ambitions, Ares would never find a better employer than Black Swan. The desire to further human evolution had compelled him, as well as other like-minded researchers, to gather here. Was it because of the Queen? An image of the girl flashed across Artemis's mind. No, that's impossible. He would never have given up the opportunity to change the world for the Queen's sake, no matter how precious she was to him. So what's the real reason? A sliver of moonlight fell on Artemis through the glass at the end of the passage. She cast one last glance at the R&D department before disappearing into the shadows. The first time she ever worked with Ares was years ago, back when the organization's scientific research had been leaked. Artemis walked into Ares' laboratory with a file containing intercepted information. The latter stood at his desk, silently examining his unexpected guest. The scent of alcohol and formalin permeated the room, and the air was as cold as the laboratory's occupant.
We need your help. We're attempting to decode this message, but it was thoroughly encrypted with a bunch of jargon we don't understand.
Placing the file on the table, Artemis explained the reason for her visit. She was well aware of the rumors surrounding Ares, and she had determined that he was the last person she wanted to work with. Across the table, Ares flipped through the file.
You're in charge of recovering the leaked information?
Correct.
He picked up a pen and got to work. He appeared to know what he was doing.
Some of this data was only accessible from the inside. The source of the leak is most likely one of the researchers.
He spoke calmly without looking up.
I've compiled a list of possible suspects. Handle it however you wish.
Artemis was a bit surprised. Ares had already done his part before she even asked, and his tone was so indifferent, as if those colleagues with whom he had spent many long hours working with were nothing to him. She paused before responding.
All right.
Having completed the task, Ares handed the file along with the list of names to Artemis. With his help, the leaked information was soon retrieved, and the guilty party was dealt with accordingly. The incident was resolved in just 4 days. The culprit turned out to be a colleague with whom Ares had worked closely ever since he first joined Black Swan. As one of the few people who could talk with Ares, he joined some key projects and was often referred to as Ares' assistant. Of course, everyone knew that the title was a joke based on the false premise that Ares would trust someone. In any case, he got along well with Ares. After all, he was very capable. Artemis began to wonder what she would do if Ares intended to protect his assistant. Would she convince him to surrender his own colleague, or persuade her boss to let them go? But upon locating the culprit's hideout, she realized that there was no need to worry about any of it. The target lay unconscious on the ground.
You're too late.
Ares stood by the window, his tone colder than the silver moonlight. After calling in the cleanup crew, Artemis sat down to wipe the data from his computer.
When did you find his hideout? He was so well hidden that it took a lot of work to locate it.
The list that Ares provided was very helpful, but the clever culprit left few traces, and multiple investigations had yielded no results. Ares didn't respond. He simply handed Artemis a flash drive and took his leave. Indeed, the highly efficient Ares was an excellent partner. However, as she watched him walk away, Artemis shivered at the thought of working with him again. Artemis never expected she would ever pay a visit to Dr. Lucien at Ultimate Bioresearch. When she learned Ares had left, she knew right away that Black Swan would put Dr. Lucien under strict surveillance and, when necessary, tear up their agreement and kill him. Artemis had already prepared for the worst, knowing that any mission involving Ares would be difficult. However, when she received the objective, she found it surprisingly simple. Deliver a package to Ares at Ultima Bioresearch. She didn't need to know what it was or have any further dealings with him. The only requirement was that it not be revealed to a fourth party. The task itself was simple, but the instructions were complicated. She was not allowed to inquire about specifics, so she arrived at Ultima Bioresearch at the appointed time. Ares, of course, was well aware of her presence. The moment she arrived, a researcher inquired if she was there to deliver biological samples, and immediately led her to Ares' new office. He then politely asked if they would like some tea.
No, thank you. Could you please leave us alone for a moment? I have a private matter to discuss with our guest.
Artemis was surprised by Ares' polite demeanor. She felt as though she were watching a sitcom.
Long time no see, Dr. Lucien.
Her tone was laced with sarcasm.
Where are the samples?
Artemis tossed a small package onto his desk. Her amusement was apparent, as his polite facade faded away and reverted back to its usual coldness. Despite having changed his office and his name, he was still the ambitious, ruthless Ares.
It seems you've been having a good time since leaving Black Swan, huh? People talk about you. They call you the Savior.
Ignoring her sarcasm, Ares picked up the package and locked it in a safe.
You can go now,
He said.
Ares, what are you doing?
Artemis asked, her voice tinged with anger.
I thought your goal was to promote human evolution. Suddenly, fame and fortune are more important to you now?
It was truly disappointing to lose a capable colleague, but this was his personal decision. It had nothing to do with her. What irritated Artemis was the fact that the person who was supposed to be the most reasonable and visionary of them all could abandon his noble goal for the sake of superficial fame. Ares once said that in order to drive evolution, one must be willing to make sacrifices. Black Swan must always pursue new breakthroughs in human evolution, thereby opening the door to a new world. Ares' words had touched Artemis and all other Black Swan employees, but he was now doing the complete opposite of what he'd said. Ares replied quietly, casting a glance at his visitor.
Don't pass judgment upon that which you don't understand. It's just common sense.
The man fell silent and motioned for her to leave. Artemis snorted in contempt and exited the well-lit office adorned with potted plants, which almost looked somewhat cozy. The chaos caused by Ares' departure gradually subsided. In time, most Black Swan employees forgot all about Ares, including Artemis. One sunny afternoon, Artemis disguised herself and entered the cafe, where she was to make contact with her target. But she was shocked to see a young couple sitting by the window. Ares and the Queen? What are they doing here? She felt her body instantly tense up. Despite her attempt to avoid all contact with the couple, Ares still recognized Artemis, even in disguise. He occasionally cast cold glances her way when his companion wasn't looking. Her mission had nothing to do with Ares or his companion, but she also didn't believe it was a chance encounter. Sitting at the bar, Artemis chatted up the shopkeeper while texting her liaison, informing them that Ares' presence could possibly ruin their plans.
The design of this shop is very special. Lucien, thank you for recommending it to me.
His companion spoke joyfully as she looked up at the man beside her. In a blink of an eye, Ares returned to the gentle and harmless Lucien, as if everything that had just happened was nothing but an illusion.
Yes. With the use of plants and ingenious lighting, the store flawlessly incorporates the nature theme into its design.
The voice of her liaison sounded in her comms.
Artemis, we found no connection between this mission and Ares. But be careful. We don't know what his motives are.
Artemis took out her mirror and lipstick and pretended to be waiting for someone, all the while keeping Ares and the Queen in her sights. She had no way of knowing if Ares would mess with the mission, so she had to be extra cautious. Ares, on the other hand, seemed completely at ease. He picked up the menu and handed it to the Queen.
I recommend the red velvet cake.
His smile was so warm that even Artemis, one of the best at seeing through false pretenses, could not spot any flaws. Ares never did anything without reason. The more he protected the Queen, the more it became clear that she held significant value for him. Having crossed paths with her a few times, Artemis had come to realize that the Queen was by no means a naive little girl. Although she had no idea what kind of agreement the two had reached, there was no such thing as unconditional trust. She had to assume it was most likely a mutual collaboration, with each party following their own agenda. Artemis glanced again at the girl as she sipped her coffee contentedly across from Ares. The Queen must be braver than they'd expected. Few people dared to cooperate with Ares after all. They were obviously up to something major, and Artemis hoped it would not affect her mission,
We've sent backup, but it'll be a while before they arrive. And we're not sure if they'll even be able to keep Ares in check.
At that moment, Artemis's target had entered the cafe. She decided to risk moving outside rather than sit in the same room with Ares, as his allegiance remained unclear.
Let's go somewhere else.
Closing the mirror with a snap, she took one last glance at Ares and the Queen before turning to leave the cafe. As news spread of Commander Leto's upcoming Evolver Ball, Black Swan began making their arrangements. Artemis was well aware that the ball was clearly a ploy, but it was also an opportunity to eliminate the Special Task Force entirely.
I just saw the Queen enter the ball. What should I do?
Artemis was unsurprised by the communication that came in through her earpiece.
Stick with the plan. Just send a couple men in to make sure the Queen is under control.
Do we need to keep track of Ares?
If you don't see him, there's no need to look for him. Focus on the mission.
Roger that.
Artemis sighed to herself. It appeared that Ares did indeed intend to cooperate with the Queen. She just didn't know what cards the Queen had up her sleeve. But since Ares had placed such a high value on her, Artemis felt it was necessary to find out. Silently, she made the decision that they would become the targets of her next mission. Men and women from all walks of life were out on the dance floor. The loud music filled every corner of the ballroom, making Artemis dizzy.
Wait, why am I dizzy?
Too late. She realized something was wrong. Before she could react, her mind blurred uncontrollably.
I have to complete the mission.
This was her last thought before she passed out. When Artemis awoke, she found herself lying on the floor. It took her a few moments to recall what had happened. Ares' knockout blow was so powerful that her head still ached. He was certainly a tough opponent in any situation. Aside from the headache, she also suffered from other injuries. Checking the damage, she found that her body was riddled with tiny wounds, most of which had stopped bleeding. What's worse, she was completely exhausted, as she had used up all of her evol during the fight. It was hard to believe that all of this was done by the girl who looked so helpless in their previous encounter. She had to admit that the Queen had grown quickly. Her skills and reaction speed had improved immensely, which could only mean that the choice Ares made was in no way misguided, and perhaps Black Swan had missed out on a great opportunity. Despite the fact that he was her adversary, Artemis admired his patience and foresight. It was almost as if he could see through to the end of the game, slowly guiding each piece to his chosen eventuality. Almost imperceptibly, he manipulated his opponent's every move to land to his advantage. Nobody knows exactly when he began to plan all of this, or what his ending will look like. But, Ares, will everything really be as you want it to be? And do you really believe that with the Queen's help, you'll be able to achieve the ultimate evolution? Looking up at the starry sky, Artemis pondered these questions silently to herself. She didn't understand Ares. No one did. If there was anyone who could know the depths of this man, perhaps the Queen could. A noise crackled in her earpiece, followed by the voice of her colleague.
Artemis, are you okay?
Barely.
Medics will be there in a few minutes.
The voice paused for a moment before speaking.
What about the Queen and Ares?
I'll put together my report. We can't continue to leave them alone.
She rose shakily to her feet and supported herself against the wall before continuing.
Mobilize anyone who can still move to investigate the scene.
Copy that.
She had no idea what Ares and the Queen were thinking, but she knew one thing for certain. She would never back down, no matter who she had to face. It was going to be a long night, and she was determined to finish what she started.